All right. We're going to go. Here's the plan, everybody. We're going to go up to 3 o'clock, and then we're going to have food after the class. Okay, so if you can stay for that. Elena's baking up some things. Will be ready in a little bit. Take about 20 minutes. So we're going to continue on. I want to make sure that you are doing some studying at home. It's so important. You read your book, you study, you get this, get this in your soul. The thing with learning is once you put all this in your subconscious, in your soul, it's in your being, then everything will flow when you start doing a chart. I mean, I've done a lot of private tutoring. I've got a student in Sweden. I spent 10 weeks Skyping, training her in astrology. She's doing readings. She's an amazing woman and very gifted. She writes me, she just wrote me last night an email about her experiences with doing readings, and she's touching people's lives. She's doing something with it. And she did one girl, and she's sending her boyfriend for a reading. And she'd like to do this as a living, but she's an artist, extraordinary artist, a gifted woman, so. One thing about once you get into doing this and you start training and learning and you'll start teaching others. I tell people all the time, I say, start teaching. As soon as you think you've got it a little bit, teach. Even if you say, well, I don't know enough. Whatever you don't know, you'll learn faster as you teach. You know that? You got to learn when you're teaching, right? And a student asks you a question and you feel, well, I may not know it, but I'll ask. Look, I'll find out next time we'll know the answer to that. The thing is, I encourage her even to teach. Last week I gave out Why Study Astrology. How many you got those? Some of you didn't. I know you did. You got one, didn't you? Okay, you didn't get one of these. And to give you some idea of the caliber of people that were into astrology. From Carl Jung to Einstein, can you believe? Nobody ever knows those things. That Ralph Waldo Emerson was definitely involved in astrology. And there's just you're in league with a lot of great people's minds and people that have gone before us that have looked into astrology. And what it'll do for you is it'll give you the most profound psychological understanding you can ever have. It really will. And I don't mean to kind of blow my own horn, but nobody will teach you what I teach, and nobody will give you what I give. And I don't mean that in an egotistical way, but, I spent a lot of years, I'm 76 years old and I've spent 50 of them doing this. No, not 50, what would that make me when I started? I was in my early 20s, and I got started with a teacher when I was in prison, a black man who's named Percy John Newton. And he introduced me to this by showing me how accurate it was. First thing he ever did was read my chart, and I was blown away. I thought, how could he know all these things about me? And he'd been in prison 17 years. We finally got released. I met him in Detroit after he got out. I was married and had a daughter at the time, and I left him with my daughter for a couple days, and my wife and I, and that's how much I love and trusted this man. And he was married to another woman at the time. And somebody called the police on him because they saw this black man with a beautiful little white girl. Can you believe this? And he had to explain to them, that's terrible, isn't it, the day we live in? And but he was the most gentle, most loving man. But he served 17 years in prison for a double murder. Yeah. But you know what? Yeah, you say, well, that's terrible. It is. Yeah. But a lot of people, the thing with all this is there's never any forgiveness. You know what I mean? And some people don't think there should be, but people change. People make a lot of changes in life. I changed, from the most wanted man in the United States in my youth to, I've been vice president of major corporations. I've been successful in my life. I've had a wonderful, gifted life. Happily married, got children, put them all through college. I mean, I've had a good life. But it took those 9 solitudinal years for me to come to where I'm at right now with you. And I share with you what I could have never gotten without this. It would have never happened because I was going to be busy chasing ladies and doing stupid things. all the time. They put me in a little cell for 8x10 cell for 9 years. Guess what? You got to get to know yourself, don't you? So the journey was starting with that, and Percy was my teacher initially. He was an amazing guy, and he showed me so much. I told you the story about the little girl that died, that he predicted. Well, some of you know the story. I'll share it for those that don't. Her name was Sandy, and she was a beautiful 17-year-old girl in Richmond, Virginia. When I was a fugitive, I was living in Richmond, Virginia, hiding from the law. And I was staying with a woman's boarding home who was a minister woman. Her name was Mary, and she was kind of Pentecostal minister. And she knew I was on a run, but she didn't, of course, she let me stay in her boarding home. And I got to know Sandy. And Sandy was married to a real SOB. I can translate that better for you, but I'll leave it at that. And alcoholic and abuser. And so after I went to prison, I was still writing with Sandy and communicating with her, and with Mary as well. And I got a letter from Sandy telling me that she was going to go in the hospital because she was going to give birth to a child. And I said, when the baby's born, send us the birth information, and I'll have Percy do a chart. Because I was new at it at the time, and I was still curious about it. So she sent in the birth time, and you got to remember, in prison you don't get your mail right away. It goes through censorship, and it might be 2 weeks from the time it was written when you get it. So it's not right on top of it like today, text the message and you're there, right? So I ended up getting the birth time, and I gave it to Percy, and Percy did the chart, and he very solemnly walked over to the calendar on his wall, and he circled a date, and in his cell, and he said to me, by this day the mother of the child will be dead. And I was freaked out by that. I thought, well, how can, the baby was premature. So I thought, well, maybe the baby will die. And she was in a Richmond, Virginia hospital. And anyway, she got out, and everything seemed fine. The baby was released. But then she had an asthma condition. And she wrote me back that she was going to have to go back in the hospital because her doctor was concerned about her having this asthma attacks when she was in a weakened condition from just giving birth to a child. So the next letter I get, and by the way, he said the mother or child would be dead by this date, to the day, 6 days, he said, it shall happen. The next letter I got was from Mary, the minister, and she wrote me back that Sandy had called her and said she couldn't get any help in the hospital and that she couldn't breathe, and nobody would give her help because there was no doctor on duty that night. If I had been a rich man and knew what I know now, I would have sued that hospital till they got a lesson they wouldn't have forgot. But as it turns out, Mary gets up, goes to the hospital at 12 o'clock at night, and of course she tries to comfort her and pray over her and do the thing a minister would do. And she thinks it's okay. She goes back home. She gets another call back at 4 o'clock in the morning. Sandy's begging her, please help me, I'm dying. She died 15 minutes later. And it was at 4:15 in the morning she died. The baby was born exactly 6 days at 4:15 before that. And that's what got me on the journey that I went on. I had to know, how could he ever know this? And then I did discover how he knew it. It's called Dark Moon Lilith in astrology, and it's another area we could go into someday, but I give you what I can give you in this class, okay? But in Dark Moon Lilith is said to be in scripture and in myths, Lilith was the first wife of Adam, and because she couldn't bear children, Adam left her for Eve, and in the story, she's described in the Bible as the night hag and screech owl, and with special and evil powers over childbirth. And it's a dark moon. You can calculate it in a chart. It was very afflicted in that chart of that baby's birth. So anyway, that's what got me on this journey. And that's how I had to find out if this man can do this, I've got to find out why and how. And I dedicated the rest of my life for years studying and trying to understand this marvelous tool. And so much of what goes under the name of astrology today is hogwash. I don't mean to disparage other teachers. I'm sure there's some good ones out there, but you know, I want to see that you get a good root of it, a good base of it, a good knowledge of it that's based on things that I know work. You know, I remember the first day after I got out of prison, I remember I went to an astrology class and the woman sat there reading a book by Ivy Goldstein Jacobson. I loved her. I used to read her books all the time, but she thought that's what she did for her class. I thought, well, what about what she got to share? Why doesn't she teach us something she knows instead of read a book to me that I've already read? And that's when I determined I could teach, because I had enough experience. I could teach this. And the first time I got up to teach, I'd taken all these copious notes. I was so prepared. I'll tell you, I was scared because I'd never done it. And I got before this group and I started stuttering. I just locked up. And the group was very loving, and they said, come on, Ron, put them damn notes down. Let's just talk to us. Stop worrying about your notes. Stop worrying about what you're going to say. Just talk to us. What do you got to share with us? And they opened me up, and I just started flowing. And to this day, I never pick up notes too much. Closest thing I do to notes is this. And you know I get off of this thing all the time because I got to go where I'm going to go, where the Spirit leads me. But anyway, okay. I'm a Spirit-led teacher. How's that? That sounds evangelical or something? I like it. You like that? Okay. So, you know, some people relate to my style. If they do, they don't. It doesn't. So anyway, so let's maybe move through this a little bit. How come we're back here? Are we back there again? We don't need to be here. Fire signs, earth signs, air signs. That's something else you want to learn. Okay, we know the cardinal, fixed, and mutable. The mutable signs are Pisces and Virgo, Sagittarius, and Gemini. Mutable means mutate. I'm a mutable sign mostly. Most of my planets in my chart are mutable. What does that mean? It means that when I get under stress, I just want to run away. I want to escape. I don't want to face it. If things get hot and heavy in my marriage and I'm fighting, I just walk out the door. I'll come back, but I'm not going to, when I'm leaving, I'm done. So that's mutable. We run and we mutate, okay? We change. We're more flexible. The fixed signs are not. Fixed signs are Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Leo. Okay, we have a lot of Scorpios in here, don't we? How many Scorpios in here? Look at this. 1, 2, 3. I thought we had more than that. Oh, there you go. I thought we had more. So we got a lot of Scorpios, okay? But the Scorpios are fixed. The Taurus is fixed. We say Taurus is stubborn. Well, they're also tenacious. Leo's stubborn, too. Very strong-willed. Leo, I will, is key word. Key word of Leo is I will. Taurus is I have. Okay, it can be possessive, the Taurus sign. It's mine. You're mine. Don't you screw around on me. You're mine. That's Taurus, okay? So what do you have? You got Taurus, you got the fixed sign, you got Scorpio, you've got Aquarius, and you've got Leo. Okay? I was married to Aquarius before. They know it all. And they generally do. Aquarius is I know. That's a key word. They're very intuitive. I mean, very intuitive. Don't think you get by on Aquarius. They know. They intuitively know, you know? So I mean, it's really amazing, you know? I mean, and the thing about these signs, you know, we talk about Leo. It's my son. I've got 2 children are Leos. I got a daughter who just had a birthday yesterday, and a son that had by my wife here, Andre, who had a birthday 2 days ago. They're born a day apart, and Leo sign, not in the years, of course. So, but they're very. Leo is very indomitable. You have Leo rising in a chart. It's similar influence. It gives a strong will, very determined. Okay. And very stubborn in a positive way, especially though the Leos are the worst to challenge. You never challenge a Leo because they will stand up to you. Even as a child, I remember my son, Andre, who is now 24 years old. 24, he just turned. And he's an amazing kid, a classical pianist, gifted, played all over New York and everywhere. And a biomedical engineering graduate that's building his own biomedical company now in California. But strong-willed. I remember trying to discipline him as a child one time, get him in the bedroom and trying to spank him. Couldn't do it. Absolutely couldn't do it. The young kid, the young boy, he would not let me spank him. And I often said that he was the father to this guy. He taught me more than, I realized he had more maturity in many ways than I did. Even as a child he did. Very wise. Beautiful kid. His picture's up on some of these pictures around here. But anyway, and he's won first place in competitions and body strength building. He's an amazing kid. So my wife's saying, get back on course. Get back on the class. So what were we talking about? I was talking about fixed signs, right? Okay. You'll know all my life here in a minute. Okay, fire burns things. It's conscious. If it were conscious, it would look upon everything else as being either fuel or not fuel. And that's how people with strong fire placements seem to act. They seem to be so completely self-centered, it sometimes seems they don't know that anyone else is really alive. It's very difficult to get them to see things from anyone else's point of view because deep inside themselves they don't believe there is any other point of view, just their own. That's my sign. I'm fire. I got to watch that ego stuff too. That's ego and fire. Aries, I am. Oh, I am. You see, Aries, fire sign. Okay, and Leo, I will. My will's the ruler. Edgar Cayce, if you remember him, he used to say, "Will is ever the ruler." Edgar Cayce was an amazing prophet. So, anyway, okay, more on the more positive side, fire shows your true identity, what you're really like inside, what you seem to initiate by yourself alone. It represents the enthusiasm and fire in you. The expression "fired up" fits these signs. I'm always fired up. You can see that in me. That's who I am. I got a fiery personality. Okay. The word enthusiasm. Do you know where it came from? Huh? Anybody know what enthusiasm is? You know what its dictionary version is, but let me tell you where it came from. It comes from entheos. Theos, God. Entheos means God within. I'd rather have. You give me. I used to hire and fire. I was a boss. I used to run companies, and I'd rather have an enthusiastic individual come in or one that knew it all. Which one do you think I'd choose? The enthusiastic. Yeah, because it's enthusiasm that moves mountains. It's enthusiasm that moves you. It's my enthusiasm that imparts this knowledge to you. It's partly what makes it work. I could be up here and be a dry teacher, kind of by road, going through this, that. You'd be sleeping out here. You see what I mean? But I want to shake you. I want to hit your center. I want to come in and get into your soul. I've been to many conferences where I've lectured and taught, and been speakers. And I sit there sometimes watching these speakers, and I want just like a racehorse. Let me loose. Just turn me loose on these people. I'll wake them up. I'll wake them up. Aquarian Awakening. That's my business. Aquarian Awakening. Shake you to the core. Get inside and let's touch your souls. Let's communicate on a level that means something. Okay. Leo fixed shows where you're creative, where you can really put your heart into something. Sagittarius is mutable. I'd missed Aries as cardinal. It shows where you can initiate action immediately, forcefully, and directly. And Sagittarius is a mutable fire, which is a sign of wisdom. Okay, the word sage came from Sagittarius. Sagacious, meaning wise, Sagittarius, okay? Okay, so, who is it had a Sagittarian moon? You Sagittarius moon? You do, I think, yes. I think so. Thank you. Let me look at it. Yes, Sagittarius moon, right? What does that tell me? Right away. I don't need to know anything else. I know this. She's a wise woman. She's a wise woman. Okay. I bet you you've been a gift to many young people. A gift in more ways. I know you taught. You told me that, but you also have imparted great wisdom to children, and probably your own. I bet you've had a few. How many of you children?
I have 5.
5. Okay, there they go. That's a wise woman. She's had to impart love and life and knowledge and wisdom to those kids, and I bet they turned out good. Okay, because it's a wise mother, Sagittarius moon. You see this? How do I know this? You all can know it. All you have to do is study this. Get it in your head. Huh? You can walk up to somebody and knock them over. You know why? Because you can see into their soul. You'll know them basically, not just astrologically, but you'll begin to see people in their deepest being. That's what makes a good astrologer. And that means being able to love others. Oh, we're back to love. How simplistic. Huh? Think about it. You know, I sit down with a client and I'm 100% right there with them. If I look at you, I'm looking at you. I'm looking in your eyes and I'm looking in your soul. And I can see the connection between the past and the future so perfectly that I know your past and future. Do you see that? That's what a prophet is. It's no magic. It's no psychic stuff. It's psychic, but in different ways. It's being a lover of others. Being able to really deeply get inside a soul of a person. And that's the link between the past and the present. And that's why I spend so much time trying to teach you how to be here now and to be loving now. Because everything else is incidental to that. You want to change? You've got to change your attitude. You've got to change your response to life. You've got to start praising, giving thanks. You've got to recognize that it's all working together for your highest good. You've got to have that kind of faith of the saints. Wow, am I getting preachy here? Okay. Here's an example of someone with the sign of Aries on the midheaven. That's the career. Remember we talked about 10th house, midheaven, career, standing in the community, reputation, all that stuff's 10th house stuff. Okay? So if you have a lot of emphasis on your 10th house, what does that mean? Okay, Bill Gates, okay, that's intercepted. We won't get into that right now. You can have two signs in a house. It's called interception. Happens a lot when you're in high latitudes because of the shape of the earth and anyway, that's another story. I don't want to take you there right now. So, okay. What are we talking about? Okay, we're talking about sign of Aries on the midheaven. Another example, this time with Aries intercepted, means it does not appear at the beginning of any house. In his 12th house, prisons, restrictions, psychological problems, is Charles Manson. He's got all this emphasis in the 12th house, prisons, institutions. It can be monasteries, self-imposed restrictions and limitations. It can be hospitals, it can be psychiatric wards. All that's Pisces, okay? So there were many other, by the way, I have, you expect that, right? I have my Sun and Mercury in my 12th house. Amazing, isn't it? Squaring off to Mars. Mars in my second, the house of money. What armed robbery? 7 states. You know, Mars squaring Sun, my life, and Mercury, my learning. I have Jupiter in the. Anyway, enough. I won't keep going on my side. So you have. Don't think you have to wind up like him because you got that. That's obviously true. But you know, the point is that you're going to start to look at charts. And we're going to be doing them in here. Okay. Here's Bill Gates' charts. He's got a moon up here in the midheaven. Look at that. The moon gets extra emphasis because it also the rising sign of Cancer rules this sign. He's got Uranus rising in the east. Uranus rules New Age things, computers, everything to do with that. Astrology it even rules, okay? He's got it rising in the east. And look what sign it's in, Leo. Right here, Leo. He's the king of what? Innovation in terms of computers. Yeah, exactly. You know, where did all this come from? He was born with this. Very fortunate, okay? Okay, and it's placed in Aries, action and aggression, okay? That's Aries up here, okay? Showing his style. The planet making the closest aspect to the midheaven usually determines the career. In this case, it's Uranus. Everything new and high-tech, independence, all that is Uranus. It's in perfect aspect to this planet by trine, a good favorable aspect. It's both in fire signs, okay? So it shows the power of this. Venus, or happiness, is in conjunction with Saturn, hard work and discipline, okay? Gates seldom takes vacations. Jupiter's luck and Pluto's obsessions are together in the second house. Good fortune, second house money. Pluto, huge. Pluto's like, wow, it's the underworld. It's power that's not even of this earth. And you put it with Jupiter like this in the second house of money, look what he's got. One of the richest men on this planet. Okay, we talk about plutocrats. You ever heard that word? Plutocrats, what does that mean? very much so. They're powerful people. And that's what he's got, Pluto with Jupiter in the second of money. Huh? Tell me it's coincidence. Oh, it's just coincidental chart. Okay? We're going to be doing a lot of this. Right now you're not all ready for it because you're looking at this and say, oh, it's just foreign language to me. But I'm going to teach it to you. Be patient with yourself. Be loving with yourself. Study at home. Don't just walk out of here and say, oh, I'll come back next week and learn more. You learn while you're gone. Am I making sense with you guys? Okay? Gates seldom takes vacations. Okay, second out money. This month, 3/14, Gates moved back into his first place as the richest man in the world. In March he did that. So, anyway. Okay. I'm not going to do this one tonight. This is Charles Manson. We're going to do the bad and the good, the bad, the ugly in this class. Okay? And so, okay. What is the world does that say? Oh, she's trying to tell me it's 3 p.m. She put Saturn here. It's cute. Saturn time with a smiley face. That's my wife. Tries to keep me in line. Well, look, I hope we've covered a lot. I know it's overwhelming. I understand all that, okay? I want to overwhelm you. I want you to be overwhelmed. But I want you to also to take a day at a time, study more each day, become good at this. You'll become good if you'll stay with it. When I remember when I started doing astrology, I used to be distracted. I was getting interested in other things. I thought, handwriting analysis, that's interesting. I think I'll learn that. Or palmistry, my gosh, there's a lot to that too. There really is, And so I would always get other things I'd get interested in, numerology, for example. And then I finally said, look, Ron, stop all this. I want to be the best astrologer around. I'm going to just focus on one thing. It's like a guy trying to reach water and he's digging a hole in the ground to go to get water, and he says, well, I think I'll stop and dig over here a little while. He does it a little bit more, I'll go over here and dig a little bit. Well, he never reaches water, right? So what I want you to do is reach the water. I want you to dig deep. I want you to dig deep in yourself. Develop this skill. Get a passion for it like I have. And begin touching other people's lives with your knowledge. Isn't that fun? That sounds like fun, doesn't it? I've said it many times, the self is too small an object for perpetual enthusiasm. The self is too small an object for perpetual enthusiasm. That's why when my kids used to say, I'm bored, I said, it's because you're just occupied in yourself. You don't see outside yourself. You'll always be bored when you're like that. Get interested in other people. What a wonderful way to do it, huh? It really does. It opens your world. I met my wife through astrology. It's been a blessing to me. I met my ex-wife through astrology. What does it do? It opens doors. It opens the communication doors. You'll always be interested and invited when you know this. People want to know about themselves. How many of you come up to me and want to know about your charts? Huh? It's natural. It's natural. People say, well, it's all self-centered. You're always looking at yourself. I say, that's good. What is it Shakespeare said? Know thyself, and it must follow as the night the day. Thou canst then be false to any man. The more you know yourself, the more you know others. The more you know your own chart, the more you'll know others. Study to be worthy. Show thyself worthy. Study. I'm going to let you go eat. Get out of here. Go grab a bite. Thank you so much. Okay.